Well, welcome back to the Cory Lee Show. Guys, I know it's going to be a great episode today. I know you're going to be blessed in our episode today. I've got a new friend with us today. Her name is Miss Nancy Lindgren. And Nancy, she is the CEO of More Mentoring, and I love her vision for the organization that she's got. Her goal is to raise up 1 million mentors across the globe. And I love that. I love the boldness of it. And I love the generational impact that it's going to have. And so, Nancy, welcome to the Cory Lee Show.
Thank you so much, Cory, for having me on. It's great to be here.
Yeah, well, thank you for what you're doing, and thanks for coming on. And I know that you're going to add a lot of value to our listeners. And so, Nancy, I just shared a little bit of a snippet of where you're at in life. And so take us on the journey. Tell us a little bit about your story. How did you get from where you are to where you are today? And would love to hear a little more about your vision.
Oh, well, thank you. From way back when, I've been a very, very relational person. And so relationships are important to me. And I feel like that's God's heart too. He's all about relationship as well. And so I accepted Christ at a very young age, and I've walked with Jesus for over 55 years now. And so I have a lot of history with him, and I've had a lot of I've experienced his faithfulness and how he's led me and guided me on this path. But it really started way back in high school, where I was a senior in high school and I had a friend who was a sophomore in high school, and her mom died that year. And it was such a hard year for her. And I just stepped into her life and walked with her on this hard journey. And years later, she called me her mentor. And back then, that wasn't even a term we used. It just wasn't something we talked about. But she just said, "You were my mentor in that season." And I didn't have any experience in, dealing with the death of a close loved one. And I just sat with her in her pain. I listened to her. I let her cry. I let her be real. And so that was kind of that first taste of what is a mentor and what does it look like. And then as I walked through kind of my season of being a young mom, and I didn't really have that mentor in my life. And so I came out of that season of having 4 little kids. It was hard and poured a lot out. We had 4 kids in 6 years. And so I was pouring myself out into these little kids and realized I needed someone who was just a little further down the path than I was to tell me, "You're doing a good job, Nancy. Keep doing what you're doing and pray with me about the hard things." And I just came out of that season going, "Lord, I want to be that person to anybody who needs that, because I know how hard that season can be." So my passion for even young moms started at a young age. And I just began to walk alongside other women, and especially those young moms. And he would put them in my life one by one by one. And especially one mom back in 2014, 10 years ago now, even before that, actually, she showed up in my life at a block party in my neighborhood, and we got to know each other. But soon after that time of meeting her, she sent me a note in the mail that said, "Would you be my mentor?"
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first time someone said those words to me or wrote those words to me. And I kind of panicked and felt fearful, because I thought, I don't know what she means, and I don't know what she expects from me. And I don't have what it takes to be a mentor. But I just invited her over to my house. Soon after I got that card, I said, "Yes, Lord, I'm willing to do that. I want to do this, and use me however you want to." But I remember pulling off all these Bible studies and books off of my shelf, and I had a big pile of them, because I thought, surely she just want to go through something like that. That's what a mentor does. You just go through a Bible study together. And we didn't touch any of those books on that morning.
Yeah.
She just poured out her heart to me. And she was struggling, and her firstborn was going off to kindergarten. She was in a tough season. And I just listened, and I loved her, and I shared my experience, and then we prayed together. And we walked away from that most amazing 1 hour together and thought, this is something that can be multiplied and duplicated. It's not hard. We've got to do this, step into each other's lives, just be real with each other, but bring God into the relationship. So that was the beginning of a journey of me doing that with more people, but also people wanting to know how I did it, and what was the key to this. And really the key is Jesus, and it's bringing him in. And the pressure isn't on a mentor's shoulders to have all the answers and all the advice. You bring in the Lord and you ask him what his advice is. And then the two of you together, you grow in the knowledge of who God is and his greatness and what he can do. We begin to see him do miracles in our lives. And it's like, I want this for everyone out there to experience this. And so that's the beginning of the journey. And here today, all these years later, wow, I'm leading this ministry called More Mentoring, and it's now around the world in a lot of different countries and all over in the US. We're helping churches launch mentoring ministries, and we want to help people connect. We're helping individual mentors do what God's called each of us to do, and that's to step into each other's lives and walk alongside each other.
Wow, that is powerful. And so in high school, you said you just basically came alongside that other young lady, and you were there, you were present, and you just loved on her. You were just there. That's powerful. And so
Yeah.
I would be curious, like, how do you like what is mentoring then? How would you define mentoring then?
Mhm. I define it this way. Being a mentor is someone who's a little further down the road and walks alongside another, comes alongside another person and points them to Jesus. And
Mm.
so it's really not about you and not about what you're lacking. So many mentors feel like they're unqualified and they don't have what it takes to be a mentor. And I just say you do have what it takes. You have Jesus. You have a story, you have experiences with him, you have the Bible, you have a relationship, you have a personality, you have a story that God has written over your life that you can share with another person. And so it's not that hard. It's really not that hard. You don't have to be, super knowledgeable about the Bible. You don't have to be a scholar. You don't have to be a psychologist. We think we have to know more than we really do. I think it's just be who God made us to be and step in and let him do the work that he can do.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Well, Nancy, how about this? All right. What do I need a mentor for? Can I do this thing on my own? I can, what do I need a mentor for? So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
That's so good. I mean, I think a lot of us are in that place of why do I need a mentor? But if you really do look deep in our lives, like we need people and we need God.
Yeah.
And I have learned so much from my mentor that I would not be the same person I am without her in my life. She has modeled for me what it looks like to walk with Jesus. I've grown closer to him because of her pouring into me. And I just think if I was out here doing this by myself, I wouldn't be near the person I am today, alone, unless I had other people in my life pouring into me, because I can learn from each one. They have a story. God's used them, and they speak truth into me that I don't even know I need to hear sometimes. And I just think we all need somebody. And I think if we think we don't, I don't know, it's the lie of the enemy that he wants to whisper in our ears. We can do this on our own. We don't need each other. I think that disconnection, we've all experienced that through COVID and the past hard years, the past 3 or 4 years that disconnect is tough. And we need connection. We need each other. And I think it's a lie that we, if we're believing otherwise.
Yeah, I totally agree. I 100% believe in the power of mentorship, of having a mentor and being a mentor to other people. And just kind of like what you're saying is there's a perspective that I do not see. Actually, there's a lot of perspectives I do not see, and I can't
Yeah,
see the
me
picture when
too.
I'm in the frame, and like I need somebody that I don't mind to hand the light, the flashlight to, that they'll shine some light on some areas that need some exposing there,
Yeah,
or some growth.
exactly.
Um, and one of my when I first started our business and those kind of things, I realized I needed somebody. I needed to learn. I needed to grow. I had a hard time finding somebody. I'll say it like this: my first mentors were people who mentored me through their books and their podcasts and those kind of things.
Yeah, right.
Hard time finding somebody, and so, um, what would you give? What kind of advice would you give for somebody who's like in that spot? I'm looking for somebody, but where do I even look?
I know that's true. For me personally, like I had to look for someone who was leading another ministry that I could learn from. I knew that was an area I needed to grow in. And so I was in a different ministry for 27 years and I was in leadership and I watched the founder of this ministry lead and I loved how she led and I just admired her so much. And so I remember picking up the phone one day and I was going to call her and ask her to be my mentor. And I was so nervous because I thought surely she has so many other people she's mentoring. And she didn't answer the phone that day. And I remember hanging up quickly. And I waited 6 more years to ask this woman to be my
Wow.
mentor. But I kept, this prompting was in my heart, ask her, ask her. Because I was praying for a mentor, and I was looking to the Lord and asking him who he wanted for me. And I knew this was the woman. And so 6 years later, I called her again. And that this time she answered. And I boldly just said, I want to learn from you. I would love to have you speak into my life. Could we even just meet once a month on the phone? She lives in California. I'm in Colorado. And so she said yes. And we've been doing that for probably 6 years now. And I am a changed woman because of this relationship. I am so glad I stuck with it. 6 years it took me to get up that courage, but it was worth the wait. It was worth taking that step of bold faith and courage. And sometimes that's hard. I know
Yeah.
the mentee that asked me to be her mentor, she felt like she was proposing to me, and it was scary. Like, this is a marriage forevermore, and it doesn't have to be that way. Even if someone was like, we met for a few times, maybe say, could we just have coffee for 3 times? I want to glean from your wisdom and learn from you. Everyone's honored to hear those words. So I just think we have to get over that hump of feeling intimidated or feeling like they would never say yes, and just be bold and ask.
Yeah, I like it. Well, let me ask you this. And so what about, so say I'm looking for a mentor and I find me somebody, how do I posture myself, or how do I maybe prepare for those meetings, or is there preparation for those
Yeah.
meetings? How do I make the most use of that time?
Yeah, I love it. I always come with some questions.
Yeah.
I want to glean from her wisdom and glean from her experiences and past history. And oftentimes it's the hard things, like, how did you handle this when you were leading the ministry? I'm in the middle of doing this. Can you tell me how you did it? And so I often will text her my questions beforehand. Sometimes I don't, and we just talk about it, but it kind of gives her preparation to talk into it as well. And, have some verses ready to share too, or, just give her some just preparation time. But I don't know. Sometimes I just think if you have questions, questions are really key. What do you want to learn? And stay teachable. You don't come into it going, I know it already. You come teachable. I want to learn. I want to grow in these areas, and hold me accountable. And then that prayer time together is so powerful, because that's where you bring God in, and then you watch him do the transformation that he can do.
Yeah, I love that. Well, what about the flip side? So say I have somebody reach out to me, or there's specific, like if somebody were to reach out to you like that, do you have like expectations, or what are some of the upfront conversations that you kind of have?
Yeah, that's really good. Well, what's really fun now in the ministry, we've written mentoring guides. So
Ah,
we have books that you can put into a mentor and mentee's hands. So if a mentee were to ask me to be their mentor, I would say, let's go through one book. It's 12 sessions. I'm willing to commit to that. Sometimes it's just 6 sessions, if depending on who I have in my life and how many I'm mentoring in a season. Maybe it's 6 times we'll meet, but I offer to go through this book together. And what this book provides is conversation starters. So there's questions in there to ask each other and learn about each other and grow. And how can I pray for you? How can I encourage you? And it gives ideas of how to encourage and how to speak truth into someone's life, and maybe share something you see in that person that they don't see in themselves. So just that bit of encouragement that maybe you don't even think about they need to hear, but it just helps kind of give a little guidance. And then the prayer time, every time we pray together, we're looking at an attribute of God, and we're learning about him. And we praise him by looking up, and then we look within and we confess out loud sin and struggle and areas of weakness. And so there's a real bonding that takes place really quickly just by using these guides that kind of walk you through. We thank the Lord together, and then we ask him, we put our names and verses, and we use scripture, and we pray powerful prayers together. And there's such unity in that, and it takes us deeper really quickly, rather than sitting down and going, okay, what do you want to talk about? And sometimes that's awkward, and it's hard to get past that little, that surface level. And so I think those mentoring guides are just a way we can go deeper faster.
I like it. Yeah. You mentioned the confession and speaking that out loud. That can in of itself be very scary as well. And I was having a
Exactly.
conversation with a friend of mine. Well, I think this happened probably about a year and a half ago, and he had kind of had a moral failure, but he mentioned He said, you know, Cory, right here is where I fell at, but way back here is where I began to fall. And he said, the biggest key was I stopped confessing. I stopped
Um,
my confession habit. And he really talks a lot about that now, the importance of that. And even scripture talks about how that can provide healing to your bones, right? It
I
provides
know. I
healing
know.
and the
Yeah.
importance of that. And I think as you're talking about having a mentor, having somebody in your corner that you can trust with those deep corners,
Yes.
it's not going anywhere, right? It's a safe
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
And I just think that's powerful to have somebody like that in your corner.
Yeah. Well, I agree that confession time is so powerful. And I have just seen strongholds be broken. And when
Yeah.
things get put into the light that are in the dark and you have another person to share that with, there's just something really, I mean, it's healing, it's freeing, it changes things. It shifts the atmosphere. And so I always believe in out loud confession, even though that can be intimidating for some, and it takes a little bit of practice and you do have to trust the other person. So I love that you mentioned it's a safe place. That we believe in one-on-one prayer focused mentoring because of that. It's a safe place. You can be honest about anything and everything, and it will be held in confidentiality as well.
Yeah. It's just such power. I guess I was talking to another friend of mine the other day, and it's interesting. We'll come, or he'll, I say we, when you start that, it's like, don't judge me, don't judge me. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, there's no judgment here. It's a safe space. And once you have that freedom to do that, judgment free, but it's just so
No,
like there's like a weight that's off of you and
absolutely.
each person there. So,
Yeah,
well,
I agree.
so I would love to hear more about your ministry. And so say a church is listening or a church leader is listening, is like, if we brought you in or we wanted to know more about more mentoring, like what does that even look like from a ministry
Yeah.
perspective?
Yeah, well, our mission is mobilizing mentors to impact lives through prayer focused mentoring. And that word mobilizing is calling up and preparing those mentors to take action. And so we are looking for the mobilizers out there, those that have mentors and mentees in their circle. A church is a key mobilizer. They have people that need mentors, that want mentors, and we want to be that ministry that can help them connect and help them get started and help them know what to do as they start. So we have training for them, for the mentors as well as the mobilizers. And so let's say a church is a mobilizer. They say, we want this at our church. Well, we have a whole training, a 3-hour training, 6 videos that go through. It's actually more videos than that, but it goes through how to launch this. How do we do this at our church? So we have all the documents you could ever want or need. We've done the preparation for you, so you don't have to write it all up. I started this at my own church way back when God put this on my heart. And I took it to my women's ministry leader, and she said, you know what? We have 2 other people that also want mentoring at our church. So we began to pray that first year. There was nothing in writing. No other church was doing it. We just kind of launched this on our own, but that's where God really began to give me eyes to see what is needed, practical steps. We always want the organic mentoring, and sure, that can happen, but there are some structural things that people need just in place that can help them move forward. And so that's what we're here to do, to put that in your hands so you don't have to come with that on your own. And we help prepare you so you know what to do with your mentors, what to do with your mentees, how to help connect them, how to pair them, what they should do in each session, how to evaluate, and then how to keep moving forward and how to tweak things and change it. And we want it to become a culture of a church, not just this program. I don't even like the word program. It's like we have too many programs, and
Yeah.
most people feel
Yeah.
that way already. It's programming, and it's like we want this to be a way of life and a culture and what people are doing naturally, but it needs to start somewhere. And so we're here to help you start somewhere. But then we want to see it grow and thrive and happen naturally and authentically and organically. But that's the goal. I think there's a starting point. So we're here with the training to help you with all that.
I love that. I think that's great and powerful, and you can just see the multiplying effect that has is you go out and mentor and then be mentored and they mentor. I think that's great.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
one of the things that Nancy, I know one of the things that you talk about that I would love to hear a little more about is you talk about intimacy over information and kind of how each one of us in our heart, we have this craving to be seen and to be heard and to be known. And I would just love to hear you talk a little bit about that intimacy over information. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I know that's become a key point for me. And I've seen it throughout the Bible too. And I think especially in Ephesians 3:19, that verse comes to mind. And it says this, and to know this love that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God. And that's what we want. You know, it's not just knowing, not just knowledge. It's not just information that we want to hear. We want a relationship. We want that experience with a living God, with another person. We do want to be seen, heard, and known. I know there was a time in my life when we moved up to the mountains and it was hard to find friends. And I remember walking into this house with a group of people that I didn't know at all. And nobody asked me a question. I stood in the middle of the room and people were talking like right past me and laughing, and like I was invisible. I was not seen. I wasn't heard. I wasn't known. And it was the worst feeling ever. And I just came home. I remember crying all the way home because I thought, I don't want to have anyone in my circle experience that. I want to see people. I want to hear them. I really want to look into their eyes and get to know them. And I think deep down, all of us are longing for that. And that's an intimacy. That's the word really is into me, see. And so we long for someone to know us like that. We know God knows us and we want to know God like that. But for a person to step in and into me, see, and really know me for who I am, I think deep down, whether we can even express that in words, it's a longing in our hearts for all of us.
Yeah, that's powerful. And one of the things I'll kind of talk about a good bit, it goes into exactly that. It's really how you see people. You talk about into me, see, and people aren't projects that need to be fixed or obstacles or
I
objects.
know.
People of value, and seeing them as people of value. Nancy, another question I have for you, I think I'd love to hear. So you've been doing this for a little bit. I think it's just so amazing how the seed of it was planted back in high school, and you just never know what those moments will do for any of us. You know, like how it leads us down the path or a career or whatever we do in life.
Yeah.
And I would love just to hear maybe one of your most memorable moments, either being a mentor or mentee. Maybe something most memorable moment from being a mentor or being mentee. Anything come to mind?
Okay. Well, that's a good question. Let's see. Um,
You
I think
probably
the
have a lot.
first year, I do have a lot. I do have a lot. Here's what comes to mind first. You know, God planted this seed in my heart to start this ministry as I was sitting on a couch one Saturday morning, February 1st, 2014. So there was a very specific moment in time where God called me, and I knew He was calling me to start a mentoring ministry called More Mentoring, because my Bible was open to Ephesians 3:20. Now to Him who's able to do immeasurably more than all you could ask or imagine. And so I longed for that. Okay, Lord, what does that look like? Well, that first year, He put 13 young moms in my life. And He said, one by one, here you go, here you go, here you go. So as I stepped into their lives, I didn't know what I was doing. I was new to this. You know, I didn't have it all written out. Nothing was formal. I just stepped in. And I began to love these young moms, and I began to just hang out with them, be with them, show up, be present. I had time. I wasn't running a big ministry then. You know, I just had a lot of time, and I showed up and I was available. And I said, here I am, Lord, use me, send me. And I just began to see them thrive. You know, I think they were in survival mode. But as I stepped in and we prayed together and I walked alongside them, there was a lifting off of this burden of I'm alone and I don't have anyone in my life, to I now have someone in my life I can share these things with. And I remember that first season, I think there were 5 young moms sitting around my table at different times, and all of them wanted to get pregnant with another baby and they couldn't get pregnant.
Wow.
And we prayed, we cried out to God for them to conceive and have another baby. and 5 of them got pregnant in that year.
Wow.
Like God answered our prayers. And it felt so impossible because it just they had been waiting a long time. It was like a, a Hannah moment where they hadn't had a baby and they wanted a baby. But to sit there and experience that and see God do it, and to just love these women but bring God into it. He's the only one that can perform that miracle. I can't do that.
Yeah.
And God did it. And he answered our prayers. And so our faith grew. My faith grew, their faith grew. And I saw that in a year's time. And that's just one specific where I just thought that was God. That was not anything of me other than we cried out together. We came together. We said, God, here's our need. Would you step in and do a miracle? And he did because we asked him to. And so I just want more people to experience that. I want to experience that more.
Yeah.
It's like he's waiting there to answer and respond. He just says, ask me, what do you want? And I want to be bold enough to come to him with anything and everything and watch him do the miraculous.
I love that. You said, so what does that look like? And you said the Lord placed 13 young ladies into your life. I would be curious, what did that look like? What do you mean he put 13 ladies into your life? Did
I
you go
know.
looking for them or did they cross your path?
That's so good. And, I think it starts with prayer. I think God gives you eyes to see people. I
Yeah.
think that's who God is. He'll give you eyes. He'll give you vision to see things like he sees. And so my posture started with prayer. God, I want to do this. I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to invest in people. And so would you put those people in my life? And so then I began watching. It. It takes an effort to pray it, but then you watch. And then it takes an act of obedience. Okay, here's someone that I see. You've now shown me this person who has shown up in my life. Maybe it's, I don't know, through church, through another ministry, in my neighborhood. I began noticing and looking. And then I took that act of obedience to start spending time with them and saying, you want to get together? Let's hang out at the park together. But every time we were together, we prayed. I would ask them how I could pray for them. And the hard things would come out in that conversation. And then as we began to pray, it's like God began to do things. And then they wanted more of that. And they wanted more of my time. And I was willing and I had time to give. And so it was just a beautiful season. It's not like that now. I don't have 13 women in my life now, but I'm running a ministry. I'm leading a ministry and equipping others to go and do what I did, so that multiplication is happening. And way back when the Lord gave me these words, when I went to my women's ministry leader and I just shared with her what God was doing in these 13 young women. And she goes, Nancy, we have to multiply you. And I just kind of looked at her and said, I don't know how to do that. I just have these 13 women, but I went back home. I sat back on that couch and I said, Lord, what does that look like? And he just gave me these words, I will bless you, I will multiply you. So for all these years, I've leaned into those words. Nancy, you do what I put in front of you. Take the next step, be obedient, but don't worry about being multiplied. I will multiply you. And I'm watching him do that around the world. I mean, that's a God that can do the multiplication. He takes the 2 fish and the 5 loaves and he breaks it and he blesses it. And then he does the multiplying in the way that we could never do on our own. And I get to be a part of that. And that's a fun adventure.
Yeah, that is the reason I asked the question right there, because a lot of people that what you just said is my testimony as well, and it goes
Okay.
against all these personal growth books. All these personal growth
Yes.
books, it talks about 10x this and 10x that, and I have people ask me all the time. Well, I see it in the business world all the time. Uh, we have an idea and then we go try to make it happen. What you
Yeah.
did was you asked the Lord and you stayed in conversation with the Lord and you postured your heart to see, to have eyes to
Yeah.
see where he was working and to work alongside of him. And when you do that, it is so freeing. It is so freeing.
Yes,
There is
it
no
really is.
striving, like not trying to make something happen. It's just such a freeing thing. And so,
Oh, I agree.
yeah.
I agree. In our ministry, we've tried to write strategic plans each year, But we kind of laugh because, we make our plans, but it's really the Lord establishes the
Yeah.
steps, right? He
Yeah.
opens doors, and He has opened so many doors that we never had on a strategic plan. But we have stayed so close to His heart, and that's the goal. So
Yeah.
dependent on the Lord that none of us can do anything in our own strength. It's all Him. And so that's the key for me. So dependent, so listening to the Lord. What is He doing? I just want to be alongside Him. Less of me, more of Him. And He does it, and He honors that, and He loves to, I don't know, He just loves to bless that.
Yeah, totally agree, and absolutely agree. I've seen that in my own life, and I love seeing it in the lives of other people. And because what you said is you didn't just pray and then just stay on the couch, right? Like
Right.
you prayed and listened, and as you went, you kept your antennas up, if you will, uh,
Yeah.
and saw
Yeah.
where He was working. And I just I think that's great. That's great. Well,
Well, it's fun.
let me ask you this, Nancy. So if somebody is listening and maybe they're an individual and they want, I said, I need that. I need somebody like that in my life. Or maybe it's somebody in a ministry is like, we would love to bring that into what we're doing. How do people find out more about what you are doing and what More Mentoring is doing?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. They can easily go to morementoring.org, our website that just has all the information they would need there. We say three things are what we offer. It's tools, which are those mentoring guides. And I also have a book I've written called Mentoring Made Real, full of stories and inspiration to get you excited about doing this on your own. And then we have training. So we have video training for mentors and mobilizers. And then we have an online community where we have people come online and we continue to equip them and continue to talk about topics ongoing. We just had a workshop on there about depression and anxiety and what do I do as a mentor when my mentee is going through this. And so we want to just be relevant and talk about the things that we might be going through and what we need, even as mentors, to do the best job we can do. And so those are the three key pieces that we really want to help people with. We want to be a support. We want to be a hub for all things mentoring. And so check us out there. We have a new promo video we just put up this past week. And so that just in a nutshell explains who we are. And we are so excited to go after 1 million mentors around the world. I don't know. God's put that on our hearts, and we're praying big. And it's something that only He can do. That's not something we can do, but we have a great God and He can do anything. And so we want to be alongside Him.
Absolutely. That's so good. And make sure you guys reach out and check out More Mentoring. And Nancy, I really appreciate you coming on. I know you've added a ton of value. If somebody's listening, they want to follow you or connect with you, or maybe even find out more about your book, where do they connect with you at?
Yeah, so I'm out there on social media, Facebook, Instagram at Nancy Lindgren. You can find me there, or More Mentoring is on there as well. So both places, yeah, reach out. Also, you can connect with me through the website. There's an About Nancy Lindgren page, so you can see my topics of what I speak on. I love to speak and go out and go to retreats and conferences and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'd love to connect with anyone who wants to reach out.
Awesome. Well, you guys make sure to do that. Make sure to follow Nancy and More Mentoring. And it's just a powerful thing when you have somebody who believes in you, that embraces who you are, but believes in who you can become, and is a safe
Yeah.
place. But it's a powerful thing when you're that for somebody else as well, too. And so I definitely encourage you to reach out to Nancy and More Mentoring. And so thank you for taking a listen. I know it has added value to you. If there's something that Nancy has spoken that has really stood out to you, make sure to comment or reach out to her. We can pass that along to her as well. But make sure you like and subscribe so you can stay up to date with any of the latest episodes of the Cory Lee Show. We hope you have a great day, and God bless.